So I can hear how bad I sound.
I think I can hear all of it.
Yeah.
We ready? Okay, I call to order the committee of the whole board meeting at 6:31 o'clock on Thursday, the 9th of February in the boardroom of Oak Park River Forest High School. And ask for a roll call.
Ms. Ivy? Yes.
Here.
Mr. Arkin?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Martieri?
Here.
Ms. Harris? Here. Mr. Thompson?
Here. Okay, I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel of the district to determine its validity. However, consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. The placement of individual students in specific education programs and other matters related to individual students, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Second.
Thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mr. Arkin?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Martieri?
Yep.
Ms. Harris? Yes. Ms. Ivy?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes. Okay. We will be resuming our committee of the whole meeting, and our first agenda item is public comments. Public comment should be limited to 3 minutes on matters concerning the jurisdiction of the Board of Education. It's not intended to be a dialogue with the board, and any questions that we would anticipate a response within up to 2 weeks. So what do we have?
We have five in person and 1 user.
Okay.
Our first speaker for tonight is Mr. Peter Ryan.
Good evening. My name is Peter Ryan from Oak Park, and I want to thank you for continuing the important discussion on the future of education here at Oak Park for high school, and on modernizing and updating aged and failing facilities, which we addressed in Project 2. And to those of you who are stepping down from the board after the spring elections, thank you for your commitment and your service. My story is fairly common in that I was born in Oak Park, graduated from Oak Park, and then returned to grow my own family as a younger adult. My family story goes back a little farther with my stepfather, Tom Hall, who also grew up in Oak Park and graduated from Oak Park in 1948. Again, not necessarily unique for Oak Park or Forest families, probably more than anything know. But even as a young 92-year-old, some of Tom's fondest memories and closest connections emanate from his time at Oak Park, where he played on an undefeated football team, ran track and swam in his spare time while getting his high school education. Now we share this true line from Tom to my siblings and stepsisters, my kids, and Tom's grandchildren. Over the years, Tom and my mom have attended their grandkids' performances and competitions in spaces virtually unchanged from when I attended, and in some cases fairly different from when Tom himself was a student. And we have many shared and unique experiences at the high school that make this through line special. And I'm grateful for OPRF. As a parent, way more than I could have known I'd ever be as a knuckleheaded teenager. And yet, it is incredible to contemplate that so little physical change has occurred in OPRF's infrastructure for such an expansive time. My point is that we need to invest in this high school so that new families, people who move here from wherever, maybe even our kids, similar opportunities to those we've had for generations to come. Project 2 is part of the investment to ensure this continues happening. We all know the issues. They have been long debated and decided. We don't need a referendum to know that Project 2 is the right thing to do. In fact, the referendum only ensures higher costs and needlessly delays what we all know is necessary. The imagined process, your elections to these seats and your votes to make Project 2 happen are in fact democracy in action, not the other way around. Let's be the generation that secures OPR's promise for the future, much like those who built this terrific school before us. Respectfully urge you to approve building Project 2 financing we know we can afford as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Our next speaker is Monica Keenan.
Good evening, I'm Monica Sheehan. My comment will address agenda item 9A, Project 2. The price tag of the proposed pool PE addition is now listed at $102 million. There has been, however, no discussion of its opportunity costs. What are the trade-offs of this project that includes only half of the school's PE facilities? And proposing to spend or asking us to forego overdue investments in 52 classrooms, 6 special ed classrooms, 14 science labs, 4 family and consumer science labs, career and vocational spaces, band, orchestra, the performing arts, the heavily utilized and cramped field house, wrestling, gymnastics, and transgender bathrooms, among others. Pushing off these needed improvements for decades requires not only a robust board discussion, but a community-wide one. Its funding must go before voters in a referendum. The newly updated 10-year maintenance plan now includes a few of these needs. Overwhelmingly, though, the space and renovation needs identified in projects 3, 4, and 5 would go unaddressed for decades. The subtext is that these labor projects will never happen. The same for dropping the Project 2 alternative that would reasonably need to be included now if Project 5 was ever a possibility. D200 is quietly communicating that the imagined plan is unbuildable, too costly to complete. Here are a few points regarding the newly updated fact sheet. First, the state sharply reduced PE requirements in 2017, but D200 has not followed suit. When updated, the need for PE declined sharply. The same is true for the school's self-imposed mandatory swim requirement. Second, D200 says the imagined pool cost just $21.5 million, which seems low as it's the reason the building would have to be demolished and rebuilt. The other elements could be renovated. This means the rest of the project costs $80.5 million. $80.5 million for a few gyms, a dance studio, an elevator, locker rooms, the green room, PE offices, and 2 classrooms. It does not seem like a value proposition. Third, D200 presents a disingenuous smaller pool as a comparison when it should have included the Stantec recommended pool, 20 yards by 25 yards, which would reduce the footprint of Project 2 and would not require demolishing the building. The Stantec pool would meet the school's needs. Importantly, this pool would cut in half the cost of Project 2. According to D200's renovation pricing presented last spring. And the Richland pool sits idle for 9 months every year. A year-round aquatic facility would meet the school's needs and provide a wonderful resource for the community. Glenbard North provides an excellent example of a best practice swim program that uses its Park District's pool. This is the most pragmatic pool solution and would make available more dollars now to address the school's many facility needs without demolishing the structurally sound building. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheehan. Our next speaker is Mr. Jeffrey Sochinsky.
Great.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Jeff Sochinsky. I lived in Oak Park since October 2001. I moved in right after 9/11. I've experienced a lot while I lived here in Oak Park. Most of it really good. But one of the things that I don't like is our taste for expensive projects. And I'll just quickly list a few of them. One was the proposal for Cap the Ike when I first moved here, which I think our piece would have been 10% of at least $1 billion. Another project which I took issue with was the Tasty Dog relocation. That was over $1 million. And I never understood why we had to replace the library. It was a great library and could have been expanded. That was $35 million. Just want to give this as kind of a background to my experience while I lived for the last 20 years here in Oak Park. More recently, we had the $44 million pool proposal back in 2016. Eventually, that was voted down with a referendum, just barely. It was very close. And now we're back with this $102 million sports facility project. And I'm not really sure how much of that is the pool, but that really it doesn't matter to me. It's the sports facility package just seems way large, and I think those dollars could be spent more efficiently. I also understand there's some expensive financing that's been proposed. I would say we should use the most equitable, low-cost financing process as possible. So overall, the points I'd like to make are, I think the decision process is inequitable. I really want students' needs to be met rather than build facilities. And then I'd like to propose what I imagine the $100 million could be used for. So inequitable decision process. Thus far, the decision process is taking place without the use of a referendum. I feel the referendum is necessary, especially since in 2016, we already had the precedent of having a referendum. And then also in 2020, we had a non-binding referendum proposal, and that passed by 77%. And that was for any project over 5 million. And I really feel like this should go to a referendum rather than being passed just within this council. Student needs. My overarching question is, how is $100 million sports facility going to help educate students? You know, Superintendent Johnson has said in an article that I read that the pool is what equity looks like. And I acknowledge all students need to know how to swim for safety reasons. They absolutely have to. And I wouldn't be against a pool, but I would suggest that we could serve those needs in less costly, more efficient ways through a pool at Richmond Commons or a shared facility with the park district. My last comments, I'll just be quick here. I believe our tax dollars should be used to serve the students' needs, assess their needs when they enter the high school, tailor a program to those students with special needs, provide tutoring and after school and summer programs. And another thing I think that's very important we could use those dollars for is to retool our counseling and psychology abilities and staff.
Okay, time please.
Okay, this is what, to me, what equity looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sotinsky. You're welcome. Our next speaker, Mr. Dak Powers.
PE does need updating. A lot of things around here do. The debate is just about the scope, the allocation of space and dollars for any one purpose, given the many competing demands the school has for its resources now and in the coming decades. If anyone done a cost benefit analysis of a $30 million PE rehab or 40 or 50 million, and what's the incremental benefit to the student when you go up to 102 or $104 million? In 2005, the District 200 board exploited a loophole in the state law to raise taxes over 16%, leading over the next decade to a surplus that peaked around 135 million. The board at that time was within its legal rights to do what it did. Ethically, they were way out of bounds, violating the good faith of the taxpayers, permanently and unnecessarily increasing the property tax burden on Oak Park residents. You are now contemplating, if not maneuvering towards spending much of that ill-gotten surplus on Project 2. Like your predecessor board, you may be within your legal right as elected officials to bypass the referendum, but in choosing that path, you would implicate the previous board's ethical transgression and breach of good faith. They'll do it. If the community truly wants what the matching list proposes, then put it to a referendum and let the community decide. I could live with any result. Can you? Do not guide the, please do not nudge or guide the finance committee toward non-referendum options. They're not meant to provide cover for your decisions, only feedback with your board accountable for decisions. Some argue that you are elected to make decisions. That's true, obviously. But given the history of egregious District 200 abuse of taxpayers and the long-term distrust of the board, this issue demands wider approval. Others have talked about the advisory referendum, and you're talking about 10 times that amount. Do you really feel that you can ignore that guidance of 77% of the voters in the last election? If you do feel you can ignore it, I think probably now would be the time to explain why, be transparent. Speaking of cost benefit analysis and getting back to the allocation of resources, just as a quick aside, the high school I attended in Buffalo, New York is in its 162nd year. Had a swim program for about 52 of those years. Won over 30 league championships. It's never had a pool. It uses the pool of Buffalo State University 3 miles away. How has Oak Park River Forest been able to collaborate with the Park District on enclosing the pool of Richmond that is about as close to the south end of campus as is the north end of the building? The most rational, cost-effective solution for the school and the village is within eyesight of the school, and it might just as well be 100 miles away. Lastly, at a reunion 5 years ago at that same high school, I asked the president, who was one of my teachers back before electricity, why they never built the pool. The school is landlocked, just like this one is, houses on 3 sides, nowhere to grow. He said, because we have nearby options that more than satisfy our needs at a reasonable cost, This enables us to focus our dollars on other priorities and means we don't have to have a permanent budget item for maintenance and upkeep. There's a lot of wisdom in that way of thinking. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Our next speaker, Ms. Laura Tuesby.
My name is Laura Husey, and I'm a River Forest resident. For decades, our community has discussed that the physical education spaces at OPRF must be replaced. The work must be done. There is consensus that this work must be done. District 200 has presented a detailed plan to replace the current structure and ensure that this school will stand for another 100 years. Only one funding plan is the lowest cost to our community. This option is also the option that gets us to construction as soon as possible. Any move to send this issue to an unnecessary referendum simply adds on tens of millions in costs that none of us taxpayers want to pay. The pool included in this plan is not a ginormous pool. The Imagine group, made up of our community members, specifically rejected an overly large, Olympic-sized, or ginormous pool. Therefore, a ginormous pool is not what is included in the Project 2 plan. Rather, the pool aligns with the size of pools built at roughly 20 other Chicago area high schools over the past 25 years, including both Leiden and Hinsdale. The pool in the Imagine plan is 25 by 40 yards and will replace the current 2 swimming pools in kind, as well as accommodate physical education instruction for more than 2,000 students each year. It allows our teachers to have more flexibility as they provide instruction to these students, particularly our students who are trying to learn to swim. These are instructional spaces. Putting a roof on Richmond simply doesn't meet these curricular needs during a busy school day. The Imagine plan also addresses the lack of appropriate wheelchair access to the physical education side of the building. It simply breaks my heart to think of the students who have physical limitations and the struggles they have day in and day out to access this portion of the building. Our communities do something so well, but the fact that we have allowed our students with mobility issues to navigate these terrible conditions for so many years truly stuns me. Renovating in place simply won't fix these accessibility issues. $45 million is already in the bank and earmarked for this project. With construction costs further escalating annually, what are we waiting for? What is the point of spending extra money and adding a year delay when we all know the work is needed? We elected you, our board. Why the need for cost delay and unnecessary referendum? Democracy is in action here. We, the voters, have elected you, the District 200 board, to make this decision. Please move forward with Project 2 and financing scenario. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tuesby. And via Zoom, we have Mr. Marty Bernstein.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
All right. Thanks. I have 2 questions I want to ask about 9A. First one is about the Imagine Work Group. It was launched in 2017, and charge from the board was for the administration to recommend a comprehensive, fiscally responsible facilities plan that would support equity and current and future academic needs. I would like the board to explain how the 8-person subgroup that produced the pool for Project 2 consisted of 3 parents of aquatic team members, 4 District 200 staff members, and 1 other person. This group, more than any other part of the Imagine plan, should have been monitored for a fair representation of the community. I would like the existing members at the time that plan was accepted, Mr. Kosky, Ms. Spivey, and Mr. Arkin, each of you to answer the question of how that was allowed to happen. My second question is regarding the estimate for the Project 2 plan. It's $100 million estimate. And that's an estimate. The final cost is going to be many, many millions of dollars more than the 100 million. We know from project one that overran by 25%. We can add at least that in there. We don't know what the cost of borrowing money would be. We don't know where the 10-year maintenance plan to add 4 stories for $25 million fits in. But I'm pretty sure that the reason for that is because of the pool, not because of we need to give more parking to more students. And I would like to know from the board members how you feel about signing a blank check. There is no limit on the amount of money that might be spent on this project. And I would like to ask each of the board members to answer that question for me. And I would also invite any prospective candidates for the District 200 board to answer the question as well. I look forward to your answers. I also emailed these questions to the board on January 31st. I look forward to your answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bryson. Mr. Coffey, that concludes our public comments.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Our next agenda item is approval of the minutes. So I move to approve the January 12th, 2023 committee of the whole minutes as presented. Are there any corrections, adjustments, or edits that need to be made? Okay, may I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. And so the minutes are approved. Okay. Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, thank you. Before we start our agenda item, beginning with 8 instruction, I have an announcement that I would like to make. Every public school district in the state has a regional office of education that serves those public schools. The regional office of education in this area that serves us is West Cook. There are a large number of school districts. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but every year they name a principal of the year. And I am thrilled to announce that tomorrow morning, the announcement will come out that Principal Linda Parker has received that designation from West Cook 40. So congratulations to that. We made a similar announcement during our administrative meeting today, and we demanded a speech, and she, I don't think so. But congratulations, incredibly well earned, incredibly proud.
Fabulous. Congratulations. Okay. So we move on to instruction.
Sure. First on the agenda is Q2 semester 1 freshman curriculum update. Here for that presentation is in person, Dr. Fiorenza, and I believe we also have online zooming in Kristen McKee, our coordinator of learning. So Dr. Fiorenza, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. First, as you saw in the report, this is a Q2 semester 1 update of our monitoring. When we look at Q2 grades, they do not, they factor into the semester grade, but they don't appear on the transcripts. Our semester grades do, so just a quick FYI. As you can see in the grade distribution, Q2 grade data is mostly consistent with last year's Q2 grade data with some slight shifts in the B's and C's. The racial grade distribution is also similar. To that end, the grade distribution data did not yield anything that was concerning to us. When we look at the semester 1 grade distribution, it is also consistent with last year's grade data with some very slight shifts, which is expected given the fact that we had a larger number of students in the honors courses. But by and large, most of our students are passing classes with C's or better across all of the races. So again, nothing in this grade distribution at the semester gave us any indication to be concerned. We then did the same survey that we did Q1, and our Q2 results are similar with just a few notable increases in both the learning process as well as levels of challenge between students reported feeling that they're learning a lot in the class. They're learning a lot from their feedback on their work, that they are in fact challenged. They know they need to work hard to do well. Their assessments have difficult material on them and teachers are asking difficult questions. There was a slightly favorable shift in students' response to looking forward to coming to class. I would simply say that this survey was taken right after the winter break. So I anticipate that that is partially the result of we just came back and nobody was maybe excited to come in the cold. We then also did a qualitative, had qualitative conversations with our teachers to garner their input. And really the teachers are still expressing a pride, but also a tension. So both of those things coming from the fact that they have really positive student experiences. Challenges are continuing. We are 5 months into this, and there are still challenges with meeting the needs of a wide range of learners. Time for professional development and collaboration are at the top of teachers' priority lists. It's very important to them. And so as a result of that, administration is prioritizing the monitoring and providing enough support to teachers so that they maintain that healthy balance of work and home life, which is challenging given this new initiative and the amount of time that they're spending really working on this. As we move forward, we're going to continue our monitoring. So we will monitor again at the end of Q3. We are also refining and working on our year-end evaluation of the entire program. And of the most important is we're going to continue to listen to our teachers and create those opportunities for them to get the time they need to collaborate and the professional learning that they need around differentiation and meeting the needs of a range of learners. Questions?
Questions? No? Yeah, questions in a comment. So I appreciate the focus on collaboration. It's an international best practice. Mike Fullen's research really shows that that's the way to go and get a maximum bang for your investment in any change in pedagogy or approach. So I appreciate that you're doing that, and really anything the board can do to support you on that, let us know, because building in more collaborative time and making sure teachers feel they have that time is essential. The second thing is, I appreciate these reports and the monitoring. This is part of the new process that we're doing, and I like the way you package the data a lot. So really, this is a comment more for my fellow board members than it is for the administration. It takes a while for systems change to make a difference, and I've said that before, but I decided to bring tonight one of the key research papers on it, and I'll send a copy of it to the board, but I want to cite from it. It's from the National Bureau of Economic Research. And this paper happened to have been issued in 2016, and it looked at the distribution of student achievement after finance reform was implemented. So districts with a lot of low-end kids that were underachieving got some resources to implement best practices to move better on student achievement. And what they basically say is, we find that it's clear changes in achievement trends do not happen immediately. These accumulate over time. 10 years after reform, relative achievement of students in low-income districts after this investment in best practices rose by roughly 0.1 standard deviation. That means 1/5 of the baseline gap between the high and low income students was eliminated. 10 years. The systems change. So what we as a board, our responsibility is to make sure we stay on track So that after a couple of cohorts of students move through a reformed system, we start seeing real changes. But we have to manage expectations in the community in what is now short attention span theater America to see changes overnight. It doesn't happen. But if you put in the evidence-based reform, the research shows you ultimately win. And that means the students win. And the outcome gaps that we want to eliminate can and will be eliminated. So our board, we have to monitor it, we have to look at it year to year, we have to see if concerning data come up, but we really have to be in this for the long term. And we really have to be assessing it and having metrics in place that assess it over the long term so that we actually get to the end game. And that end game is one I think we all agree on, that a student's race, a student's income level, a student ethnicity has no statistically meaningful predictor on how that student's going to perform. We can get there. I think we've put in place a good system to get there. I look forward to the board continuing to work with the administration to monitor this the right way and manage expectations appropriately. And I'll share this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay.
Yeah, I do agree with Ralph in terms of long term, but I still think we need to look and continue looking at it on a regular short-term basis. The numbers that we see today with grades, although premature first semester, I see is relatively positive, but I think there's some other numbers that we can look at as well. And one of the things when I look at you've got short-term monitoring, performance indicators and medium term and long term. Where I look at the long term and you have honors enrollment patterns, grade distributions, etc. We can look at those honors enrollments. All right, in the short term, we can see, and I'm assuming that kids will be somewhere in the next couple of months enrolling in classes for next year.
They have
yeah.
already.
Okay, so then we should know where those freshmen are going.
I do.
All right, how many of those kids are continuing in the honors track? That's certainly something that we can look at in the short term, and then also look at long-term patterns, and I understand that. We can also look at distribution demographically of our, what are the demographics of our classroom? What have they been? All right, are we maintaining a very diverse classroom? Obviously then going along, we'll see test scores in those build over time, and I understand that, but we'll still be able to see, the results of tests of the assessments that were taken this year.
Yeah.
And so I think that I understand what Ralph is saying about being in for the long term. All right, but I also think that we have to continue to monitor in the short term. All right, and continue to have these reports on a regular basis so that we know where we're going. And if something does stick out, if we saw a number in our semester grades that looked like an anomaly. Thank you. That we can address it, that we can dig deep, all right, and we can drill down and find out what the issue, maybe there is some kind of a systemic problem that we can address immediately. That's kind of where my thought process is. I know Ralph is long-term, I'm short-term. I like short-term gratification. Ralph likes to be.
I did say you need to monitor this regularly, and that's the thing, we need a regular report, but we have to be really clear to start seeing those statistically meaningful changes in outcomes that we all want. That's the goal,
Right. But
that takes a while. Of course, Fred, that's what I said at the beginning of my comment. Of course, you'll look at this and monitor it regularly. In fact, that's part of how you do course correction if you feel like an implementation isn't. That would show up in short-term data. But long-term is really the win for our students. And it's what our system has to be built to generate. And it's what I think we as a board going forward have to manage the expectations of the community. That just because we changed the program on freshman curriculum in year 1, in year 3, we're not going to magically see an elimination of outcome gaps. What we're hoping to see along the way is some incremental progress as we monitor implementation to ensure that it's being done with fidelity with best practice.
So I would think, Mr. Arvin, that's really the most important thing, is the incremental upward shifts that we'd like to see. So like you, I too wanted to know as soon as I could, what kids were selecting for next school year. So I did not include that in the report because those numbers are not final. However, there are increases. Now, are they hundreds of kids? No. 40 more, but 40 more is 40 more. And so that's very encouraging. So I will bring in data, possibly in the 3rd quarter, maybe the 4th. I need to make sure it's final before I start presenting about it. And I need to demographically break that down and really tease that data out. But I just want to affirm for you that we are too curious about that data and we're looking at it because it does matter. So you're right.
And may I add one thing to that? Thank you for that, Dr. Fiorenza. I think that's a really important data point to bring out, just like Mr. Rucker noticed. But also, if you take a look, I just want to also point out that if you take a look at our monitoring and evaluation sheet that you were referencing, 2 lines above the long-term evaluation that references honors enrollment patterns, grade distributions, PSA2, 2 lines above that, there's a medium-term monitoring, and it references exactly what we're talking about. Freshman to sophomore enrollment patterns, specifically for what we're discussing. So, you know, we're just at a point right now where the only thing we can share out is the short term because we've done it for a short term. So, yeah.
And rushing to judgment in some things really creates false positives and negatives. And you don't want to be making decisions on systems change and whether or not you need to revamp your implementation with false positives or false negatives. I mean, right now, we're looking at a cohort that's in the building for a year and change after a couple of years when there is episodic attendance in the building. That'll change your numbers. And so how much of that is due to the implementation of a new approach versus how much is just kids being, who knows? We have short-term data that doesn't allow us to suss out that difference. So Fred, we all agree that we need to monitor the short term and keep the reports coming.
Yeah.
But the win is making sure that we make the right decisions on systems change long term, so that long term we eliminate these gaps on a statistically meaningful basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fiorenza. I'm happy to see the trend in the data, and I won't talk about the qualitative part of it. I mentioned this when I voted for detracting to begin with. So the data shows that the kids of color can do the honors correct. They can do this. There's capacity to do so, and they're doing so. But when you look at enrollment in the next year, be clear, I tried to drop out IB program when I was in high school because no one looked at me as my friends would grow up. Less of us were enrolled, so I want to be there, but don't look like me. So I talk incremental increases, be very cognizant of until it comes to normal, that we're in those spaces, you're not going to see the shift you want to see. Right? Because my daughter came here and we go to parent nights, and we were usually the only Black parents in the classroom for honors for all 4 years here. And that shaped her as well. So while we're going to go somewhere you feel uncomfortable or targeted, now that you what we can have those feelings, the anxiety can come up. So it's incremental. So with the numbers you're providing us, it's a long term. We didn't get here overnight, right? Be very clear how we got to the situation in America where we are right now in our school system. It will take time. Rouse point, we cautious as to look at the data. They don't expect 100 kids enrolled because they're not going to. They're not comfortable. I wasn't. My daughter says she's stronger than me. She was stronger than me. I said you want to take less classes. I want to do honors. I want to challenge myself. That's her personality. It wasn't my mom forced me. And thank God I had a strong mother that said you're gonna do it, so I just want to encourage you to keep doing the work. Thank you for the work administration is doing. And we have to be clear that this is not like quantitative data, it's qualitative. We're not comfortable, not gonna go.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Marianne's hand is up.
Okay, Marianne, please. Thank you.
Hi, so, sorry. Thanks, everybody. I mostly, I agree with, the long-term planning. I think we're all well aware of the fact that this is going to be a long haul. I just want to highlight that moment from the report that was talking about the need for teacher support. Differentiation requires time. It requires the more differentiation you have to do in the classroom. And I see this every day in my own classroom at the college level, the more time it requires of the teachers. And there is a point at which it is coming out of, it's coming out of your sleep hours. You're answering emails on the weekends, you're answering emails very late at night or very early in the morning. And so this is just a reminder to the board, if we are asking the teachers to do this, which we are, we need to stay very responsive to what they are telling us they need in terms of supports to be able to do this kind of differentiation effectively. And I don't want to impose on them I don't know at the high school level what's going to be the most effective supports for them. So just that we keep listening to them as they tell us, as they move through this, as they get another semester under their belt and are able to look back and see, okay, here's what worked well, here's where it was particularly challenging, and I could have used a little more support here to be able to more effectively do differentiate for the students and teach each of them to my best ability, right? So anyway, just I wanted to make sure that was highlighted, because it may take money resources, it may take planning resources, and so we just have to keep that on the table and be aware of it. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because as we approach the season of FTE, one of the things that we have talked about considerably is now that we are encouraging more students to now take sophomore honors courses, we also would like the opportunity to look at those class sizes. Currently, those class sizes are 28 and higher, where students just now came from class sizes of 24. So they and the teachers are used to a smaller environment, and with the potential spread still of needs, we believe that it's going to be necessary to lower those class sizes some. So I'm just putting that out there now as a appetizer, that I will be back for requesting some lower class sizes at the sophomore level.
I just want to say thank you for bringing that into the conversation, because the people who are not educators, I don't think they fully understand that 4 students makes a huge difference, right? Because people will say, well, she said 28 and 24. 4 students makes a huge difference in the classroom. And so, yeah, the class size is really, really important. So thank you.
Yeah.
That I'm ready to have a conversation already, because we're here for kids and the teachers are important, so bring it to when we're ready.
And to further support it, the evidence-based funding formula at the state of Illinois now uses 28 students. It's not the size of a class for a high school class. We should be bringing that down. If we want to be evidence-based.
We do.
I'll just, if I can just throw in one example. This morning I got an email from a student who was having a challenge, and it ended up being a disability related issue, and we sorted it, but it took basically an hour of emails back and forth and so on, right? And I'm happy to do it, and it's part of my job, but it just takes more time, and you can't necessarily predict day to day how much time additional students will take, and so you just have to allocate enough. So okay, thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Yes.
Next up on the instruction docket is the proposed school calendar for, well, the revised school calendar for the 23-24 school year is in here, as well as the proposed calendar for the 24-25 calendar. And coming up are the three members on our leadership team who are part of the calendar committee: Karen Sullivan, Roxana Sanders, and Linda Parker. I believe something else, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Several years ago, we made a commitment to always have 2 years worth of school calendars ready on our website for the public to be able to view. This calendar for the school year 23-24 was approved on November 18th, 2021. Our calendar committee that consists of representatives of different employee groups met on January 30th to review the current calendar for the 23-24 school year and to propose a calendar for the 24-25 school year. So as a result of reviewing the 23-24 school calendar, the committee is recommending to make some changes based on when the winter break falls for our central districts for District 1997. Initially, we were scheduled to start winter break on Thursday, December 21st, 2023, and students would be returning to school on January 8th, 2024. Teachers had a scheduled Teacher Institute Day on January 4th, 2024, and Staff Development Day on January 6th. So what we propose is to extend the first semester by 1 day and to start winter break 1 day later on December 22nd. That would shift when our teachers return back to school. They would come back on January 5th, and we would move Teacher Institute Day to that day, and Staff Development Day would be moved to March 4th. So it will help also with professional development. They not back to back, but will be spread more evenly. And it doesn't change the day when the students come back. So that's regarding the 23-24 school year. And
can I ask you a question about that real quick? Don't forget, please. So are you saying that they'll come back on the 4th? The teachers will come back for Institute Day on the 5th?
On the 5th.
And then the students will come back on the 8th?
Correct.
And everyone was okay with that? The reason why I'm asking is because when the break falls that way and coming back on a Friday, it's disruptive to people who are trying to like have a full break because you have to be back on that Friday before that full weekend. So I just am curious what the conversation was on that.
Well, so initially they were scheduled to come back on Thursday that week. So it's extending the time that they have for winter break by 1 day. So yes, the calendar committee was completely fine, and we had some similar situation this year.
Yeah, it mirrored this year.
So
So
we had that same thing this way. Yeah, I just was, okay, thank you.
Yeah. It did have impact on attendance really on this year. Okay, and then the 24-25 school year. So all the key dates are listed here, and I just want to apologize. There's a typo for the start of the winter break. It's listed correctly in the attached calendar, but in the memo it says December 18th. It actually should be December 23rd. And I just wanted to mention that all the calendars abide by student attendance day stipulated by the school code and also by collective agreement for our staff attendance. Are there any questions?
So these will be coming to us in 2 weeks and we will be asked to kind of reapprove 23, 24.
Yes.
Or but modify 23, 24. And then approve the 24, 25.
That's correct.
Holy cow. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. That completes the instructional content and we move to the finance section. So first up is the discussion on the scope of our Imagine Project 2.
Yeah, great. So could I ask Karen to stay? Thank you. Cindy Sidor's coming up, our CFO, as well as Allison Sternquist from G&A. At this point, in so many ways, a long introduction of P2, Project 2 is not really needed for folks in the room, folks watching, for it as well. What's that? Project 2? Project 2. Okay, let me go back to the beginning for you though. But I do want to highlight just really quickly that's in this report and kind of tee up the conversation that's in front of us. So first, with our finance committee working, to figure out the options that are going to come before the board for potentially financing Project 2. We have time now to nail down what the board thinks is the appropriate scope for the project overall. And so we provided several documents that we won't go through in great detail at this moment. I just want to draw attention to what these documents are. First, the ways in which equity for all of our students was a driving force behind what the Imagine work group originally did. And also the ways in which that has evolved from that moment until now is summarized in the document in the report. This includes, of course, a report, the racial equity analysis tool that was originally done, and we will be continuing that conversation regarding racial equity analysis of Project 2 over the next few weeks, and we'll give the board more information about that as that process becomes complete 2 weeks from now when we discuss the options here today. Number 2. There is a chart as the board requested that speaks to the student needs being addressed in Project 2. That is called Student Needs Addressed by P2 in the report. And so I encourage the board to take a close look at that as well. That is defined by space, okay? Every space that's in Project 2. In addition to that, there is an FAQ that the board has seen before that has been available publicly, for several months now, but it is revised to include some of the information that I just referenced. So those are the kind of supporting materials for the conversation we're having today. In addition to that, there are 2 documents that are there really to kind of tee up the conversation for the board. I'm not going to talk about or show both right off the bat, but there is a table that is on the screen in front of us right now that helps to show the questions that we are putting before the board right now regarding that scope. Very quickly, just from a visual perspective, you see here 7 potential add alternates that either have been discussed previously when we talked about add alternates back in late October, or that through a lot of discussion between now and then, we have revetted, changed, or packaged back up. As you look at it, the ones in green are the ones that at this point for this committee conversation, the administration is recommending. Be happy to talk about any one of those in greater detail, but the ones in green are the ones that we intend to recommend 2 weeks from now, pending this conversation. The ones in gray are the ones we are not recommending for a variety of different reasons that are kind of highlighted. That rationale is highlighted in the far right column there for the board to see. We also felt it would be good for any of these add alternates for the board to get a visual. And there's only been one meeting really where the schematic design has been presented and reviewed. And I know folks have looked at that in a lot of detail, both during that meeting, prior to that meeting, and after the meeting. But we've added in images of the spaces that we're talking about in here, where an image is really relevant. So that you can get a look at what these ad alternates kind of look like within that design. All right, so if you want to look that up, we can tee that up and then put that on the screen in the conversation today as well. All right, so that's the frame of the conversation. As from what we see here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ad alternates that are recommended for approval for the board, and that would and all of those ad alternates come together for a $2.3 million price tag in addition to the 99.4, which was the base cost that we discussed previously, which brings the total potential cost with these ad alternates to 117. All right, $101 million, $700,000. So I'll pause there for questions from the board, and we have everybody here to help answer those questions as you see fit. If there's anything you want me to explain or us to explain in greater detail than what we've done right now by way of introduction, happy to lean into. I'll open it up. Yeah. For whomever, and I'll let Tom do the calling. Sure.
One, at alternate one, if we were not to approve it, what happens with that space?
This is the West Pool conversion, just over there, the infill the current space. There isn't a plan, actually, I'll turn over there. There isn't a plan for what that space would be. It would be essentially unused square footage. Allison?
Is something acknowledged by the Imagine team members, was that with the original plan being continuous construction of project 1, 2, 3, there was no set plan for an interim that was hashed out. So that space was sort of had a plan like, oh, it'll continue all along. This is a plan for if there is an interim here in between project 2 being constructed and project 3 commencing, which is anticipated that it will take a little bit of time to get that process worked out, that this has a use. Otherwise, there is no defined use set aside in the master plan for that space.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I followed that, so can I read it back from the
Yeah.
That's right, okay. So that space had been contemplated to be renovated in project 3,
Correct.
but since we don't know how long that will be, the idea was to move it up to project 2.
This is to provide an interim solution until project 3 happens, an interim use for that space as opposed to it being basically mothballed.
So what is the contemplated use then though with project 3? Is it different from, I mean?
Yes, so project 3 anticipates tearing down that side of the building and rebuilding it and putting in the adaptive P as part of that renovation work. And the trainers facilities that are there right now are on that side of the building. There wasn't a specific point where those trainers facilities were planned for in the Imagine plan, but there was undefined space in project 2 that was kind of thought that would be part of it. So it was anticipated to be part of project 2. And in the base plan, if you don't do alternate 1, that trainers room is in the basement of project 2. This is, if you do alternate 1, then that frees up some space in the basement of project 2 that we could do an alternative use, put some different programming down there and put this in a more ideal location for the trainer space. So project 3 does have the adaptive P, and then it's got a lot of performing arts facility renovations, and there's one other, the gym, it's the Adventure Ed gym is over there. That's basically the scope of project 3.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, let me ask my other question now. I also then had a question about 5, the prop storage shop infill. Similar question, what happens to that space if we don't do that? And then also, I thought that's what the basement was for. So is additional storage needed beyond what the basement accommodates for props, or?
Do you want to do the first part of that?
Either one.
Yeah, well, let me just quickly say regarding that last part, this is student, this would be student use space, right? Run back and forth, which is different than what the current basement is underneath.
Okay, the basement's just longer term storage.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And this is also this allows for a prop workshop as opposed to just prop storage. It allows them to have a space to create props similar to the costume
having space to do costume creation. So this space is just a double height space right now, and it was a request by the theater department that is acknowledged as additional scope. That's why it's put forward as an alternate, that they don't need that double height in that space, and they prefer to utilize that space in this way. It was a request from them.
So, sorry,
2 stories.
okay, so just tall, okay, thank you.
Say it, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused on your answer, Sarah's answer to the use of the repurposing of the West Pool, which was supposed to come in, if you go back to the original sequencing of the Imagine plan, it was in sequence 3. There was going to be, I believe, a couple stories to it, which includes a wrestling facility, but most importantly, that's where we were going to have performing arts. On at least 2 stories of that, I believe.
That's correct.
And then some multi-purpose above that, some multi-purpose in gymnastics, and then adaptive cardio and adaptive gym. Now, I understand it. I don't disagree. All right, with moving forward in project 2 with putting in what you're asking. Training facilities are absolutely necessary. I think what was originally in the original plan, I think was in project 2, but was very small on the east side of the building, not very accessible, certainly to outdoor team members, which will be now even greater that we have track. So this does make it, the training facility, very accessible to the majority probably of our athletes, and also the adaptive gym. And that gains us an additional, I don't know how many thousand square feet. All right, you could probably get me that number at some point in time. Because I think what we're doing here is, expanding, taking those facilities we know we need, all right, and adding, putting them into a space that's already there at a relatively low cost. So we're utilizing that space, which frees up other space. And so my real question is my concern about those elements in sequence 3 that we're going to go through.
So these are not a replacement for sequence 3 or that changes the plan for project 3 at all. It's an interim.
I understand that, but what happens, okay, with project 3, then where do we go with training and adaptive?
They would need to be incorporated into project 3.
Okay.
Yeah, likely in a different way than we see here.
Yes.
Because of those are growing need. I see those as constantly growing needs. There are 2 items here that I just want to be clear about, which are kind of these are alternate recommendations, but these are negatives. Okay, so number 3, which is remove project 5 accommodations, which we knew we were going to put in some kind of infrastructure so that if we do get to project 5, we can build the indoor track. And so I'm assuming what this is, says do not approve the removal of this. So it's kind of,
that's exactly what that means.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
So those are actually deduct alternates. There's 2 deduct alternates on this list.
That's a double layer.
Right, and the same with reducing the 4th floor footprint, because that's the 4th floor footprint is basically the dance studio, yoga self-defense all.
It's not the dance studio, it's
Oh,
yoga and self-defense.
The what?
It's not the dance, it would not impact it, it would have yoga and self-defense share the dance studio, it would not eliminate the dance studio.
Right, but this is saying, do not remove it. So it would be remain, if we approved this, it would remain. That's,
If you want.
That's
the
what I just
administration's
wanted.
recommendations, yes.
be very clear.
Correct, if you went with the administration's recommendations, that
Yeah.
would be.
Some months ago, I asked you a question.
Mhm.
And I just want to reconfirm. And I believe the question that I asked you was, by raising the south end of the building in project 2 and rebuilding per your design, we are recapturing space that we do, or we are capturing additional space we do not already have.
Correct.
Okay, because of the differences in the sizes of the buildings that were built over time. You've got 1-story, 2-story, 3-story. Now we're going one solid building. All right, you gave me a number, I believe, if I remember correctly, of about 70,000 square feet of additional space that we will realize. And I just want to make sure that I'm right in.
That sounds right, you're putting me on the spot, that sounds correct.
You can get that.
Yes, that sounds like the right
Right.
number.
And the reason I think that's very important is just the growth of our participation today. I invite anybody to walk into the field house at 4 o'clock in any afternoon and see the number of students there utilizing those space. And anything, if we build an additional 70,000 square feet, it's going to take so much more pressure off of those existing facilities. I mean, I was amazed that I was with the track coaches the other day. And we have over 300 students in the track program, which is just amazing. So, so I just wanted, I think that's a point to this project, that this will help some of the overcrowding in the other spaces, whether it's the field house, whether it's the adaptive gym, whether it's the other gyms.
Yeah, and I would also say that in talking about project 3, that in doing this project and by expanding that footprint, it allows you to put more of your athletic facilities in this area, which frees up space to allow project 3 to be possible.
Thank you. That's it.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. In looking at the document shared with us, the one, not this one, but the one with that says what the student needs addressed by this.
Would you mind pulling that up, Ed, just for a second, so we can see that? It's labeled student needs addressed by P2. Sorry, Gina, I didn't.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to have it up. I was really grateful to actually see this document in what you were presenting to us, because the health and well-being of our students, to be able to actually do the academic work that we would like them to do, has everything to do with all of these spaces that are being created, and the ability for the physical education areas to be what we need them to be, the students to succeed. So I'm just really grateful to see how many needs are addressed and how they're addressed, and what the current issues are. It's just a really thorough piece of work, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you. Right. So, I have a. I'm just making sure Marianne's not there hand. Couple comments that I would have. I kind of echo, this has been a long set of discussions, and so things that, are familiar, it was good to see, share both the the work that was done from an equity analysis standpoint and the work that was done from a student needs standpoint. So it's good to have that all as part of what we look at when we talk about scope. And as we look at this thing and talk over projects 1 through 5, there was a bunch of modifications, adjustments made at the beginning of project 1 to prioritize certain aspects of it, and that were bubbled up to be, the most urgent student needs, and a lot of that centered around the Student Resource Center, and that was done. Now we're into, I would say, the more challenging parts, because we're no longer at a point of, this room or that room. It's not about renovation, it's about, reconstruction, just based on the facilities that we're talking about. So my dialogue is, first, this is about the scope of project 2. And so all this goes to say, I think it's been vetted, it's been kicked around, and I'm in support of what the base scope of project 2 is. And then supplement to that, you have or had up there, the list of alternates. Some of them have been talked to. I want to talk just briefly to alternates 2A and 2B. And those relate to really to solar and energy savings. I agree or support, how do we handle this? Okay. They're not really part of the core scope of project 2 to compare it on an apples to apples basis. As we talk about scope, it's a different initiative, a different need. And so from a scope standpoint, I'm okay, because we do need to do the work to have all of our long-term energy needs put together in a plan. But from a finance standpoint, we're going to be needing, resources. So we've got to, right now, that was in the dollars that the CFC, was kind of using as a benchmark. We're going to need to fund that and need to approve it. That's long-term needs of our facilities as well. But I understand the need to kind of say, pull them out right now, from the standpoint of kind of put a bow around project 2. So, but I don't want, I look forward to that coming as something that we can look at and say, here's what our vision and need is for the, sustainability of our building. So.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that. So I appreciate you bringing that up. The recommendation for 2C, the infrastructure only, the PV array, is really in line with our overall commitment to electrification plan, sustainability plan overall. By no means is it and even alluded to this, but by no means is it a retreat from that, because we're not recommending the panels themselves, but because such work needs to be part of a systemic electrification plan. And we've already committed to the board. We've already talked about our intent to develop that swiftly. So
Yes. So. I think those were my comments. I think other board members have addressed, some of the other alternates to my satisfaction. So I have nothing on my question.
Okay. This will be coming back to the board then in 2 weeks for a vote on the recommendations you see in front of us. But I want to be clear too, based off of this conversation, you see a lot of, some clarification in the questions, but I don't see the board looking for a different array of recommendations. So it's the recommendations that we see intact that will be coming to the board in 2 weeks. Okay.
Well, thank you. And thank you. And so now we shift to our 10-year, 10-year maintenance plan.
Yeah, so let's have Cindy, if you could stay up, and Fred Cruz, Director of Buildings and Grounds, is coming up as well. And I guess just for the sake of efficiency quickly, Cindy and Fred, I'll tee this up as well, just to say that this is coming before the board because it is 2 weeks from now. We plan to bring the projects that you see listed in the 2024 column on this to the board for approval for a process that will begin the summer 2024 work. So this isn't, we aren't approving, and I just want to be clear for everybody in the room, we aren't asking, of course, for approval for work that's going to be done 5 months from now. That has already been approved and it's been bid out, and we're walking down that path already. This is for 15, 16 months from now that we're talking about getting approval of this work. And so we've seen the 10-year maintenance plan before. This is in a very similar format to one that the board saw a year ago. And there's also a timeline in this memo too that talks about how this work unfolds. Cindy and Fred, is there anything I've missed in that introduction that you want to highlight?
No.
Good. Cindy?
Nope, I'm good.
So any questions? Questions?
I just have one comment.
Please.
Right now. Can we get this please in something with a bigger font?
My eyes, I mean,
You said the same thing earlier.
I'm getting old.
All right, so we will try to break it. We'll try to find a way to break this up into multiple pages. This is really just to put it on one page.
Yeah.
I had to blow it up 3 times.
So we will do like maybe a 5-year plan. And
Yeah,
then we'll do
that's-
part B of that and do it the next 5 or something. I did forget to say one thing though, Fred, in the introduction, and for the rest of the board, that we intend to bring to the board in 2 weeks a revised five-year projection that, thanks Cindy, that will help to capture what we anticipate this looking like financially for us over the time, because this is significantly revised as the memo reports. We've taken out the track and field work and some other things we've adjusted, but track and field work was a big removal from this project, and we need to make sure our 5-year projection is capturing that effectively. So, yes.
Yeah, so that's what we were gonna do. We're gonna work on this tomorrow. We have this project board for the regular meeting, so you can see the updated project projection at that time.
Sarah, figure it out.
I have a question about line, oh, I guess there's not a number. The second item, which is the upgrades from the accessibility survey. I understand this is a big, it's a big dollar amount, right? And the need to possibly break it off, but why are we waiting until 2026 to begin addressing it? And how is it being prioritized? Like the $500,000 chunks, like how do you figure out which items are more urgent, right? Prioritize those.
Right now, we're just using it as a placeholder. So this ADA, the survey that was done in 2019 with Mark Trelaf, when we did that, there was a huge document that I believe the Board of Education has seen that lists all the deficiencies that they brought up in the report. Some of them have to do with the parking structure, some of them have to do with sidewalks and stuff that are part of, that the village would need to address. There's a lot of items in there that we're already doing, that we're handling in-house. In-house with our carpenter staff. But the bigger ticket items were pushed out a little bit. So they might coincide with, project 2 or project 3. But we're trying to take care of all the smaller things, like the coat hooks and door levers and stuff like that. So the lever sets and stuff like that.
So what I'm hearing is that these larger dollar increases are due to the phasing or the sequencing of the construction projects.
Yes, they could. Yes, they could involve future projects, future construction projects.
is there any way that it's I mean, my days are numbered on this board, but is there any way that in some future meeting that we could get sort of an update as to that, 2019 is a while ago now, right? Get an update to what issues have been successfully remediated from that 2019 plan.
Sure.
And what is left to be done, because that to me is pretty fundamental, right? Like, we gotta do this. I don't see that. It's a moral obligation, frankly, so I would like to see this expedited to the extent possible.
Yes is the answer, and Allison's
You
gonna
got a
come
question?
forward.
To just put, there's a significant amount that's in there that is covered by track and field work. And there's also things in there that are covered by, some other items in the 10-year plan that are happening before then, and project 2 will take care of a lot of accessibility issues. So this is,
That's why.
they're being addressed by project 1, project 2, the track and field work. And so this money is beyond those items being addressed. It's a little bit everywhere.
And there also might be some items that we just can't do structurally because of the age of the building.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think
We can bring
getting an update though on what has been done, I think would be really good for the board, but also for the community to see.
Yep, we can work on that.
Okay. I have a couple just comments or thoughts as in reviewing this, some of which I've had a great discussion with Dr. Johnson on it. This appreciate this continues to take shape into a manageable picture of what we're seeing. I have one kind of comment and then 3 thoughts, suggestions. Okay, as I look at it, first, it would be helpful if, when we're looking at this, because what you have is a total value of something, and then you have it slotted in different years. But in some cases, things aren't even slotted. So it would be helpful to have at the end, what's not currently in our plan, because you have things here that are in the dollars, but they're not they're not addressed during that time frame. Correct?
That is correct.
So-
Parking garage is an example.
Yeah, so I mean, I just, as a way, so that you could just say that we can look and see that how much resource do we have that is not gonna be done in the 10 years, according to the plan. Do you understand?
Yeah, yes, I can answer the parking garage.
Yeah.
So the parking garage, as you know, it's on our property. We currently, we don't own the parking garage, and at the end of the IGA with the village, I think it's in 2020, we either get the garage back as is, or we can have the village tear it down and return the property to how it was before they built on it. I'm only using it as a placeholder because you have 2 choices. One of them is possibly to add a 4th level, but being that is a precast garage, that requires a lot of future maintenance. So the biggest bang for the buck for the district might be to put a new parking structure up, something that is going to require a lot less maintenance. But that's right now, I valued it out at around $25 million. So that wouldn't come out of the operations fund to build that. So that's why I'm only using it as a placeholder.
Yeah, and all I'm asking is more just structurally, so we can look at, as we look at the report, we can sit and say, okay, it's in there, but we haven't got any funds earmarked to it in our 10-year, this is a 10-year maintenance plan. Right? And so we have things in here that aren't going to be addressed in our 10-year maintenance plan. It's right now, because so just making that transparent would be helpful. It's more of a structural. That was number 1. Number 2 is, if for me, it's all about the why. When you look at a 10-year maintenance plan, really there should be from my vantage point, a couple common reasons of why something is on a 10-year maintenance fund. We shouldn't be kind of freelancing with 17 or 15 different reasons. Either you're replacing something because it's aged out, repair and replace, or you're replacing it, but because you're replacing it, you're gonna take advantage of that and you're gonna replace and upgrade. So I think there could be a way of just streamlining it so that we don't get into the why being the needs of the district or the need. I mean, it should tell us that of what we're doing, just as a suggestion. My third one was, it was just based on a discussion that I had, which is, and this is more from my fellow board members, is that, you know, I was inquiring about some of the specifics in the area of the HVAC work. And, you know, there is an asset-based plan that has every asset we own in that area and with their life. And they're all color coded, and then the ones that are due for replacement are the ones that get bubbled up. And what appears here is a simple number of $400,000 are the 6 or 8 pieces of equipment that have aged out and that need attention because of that asset-based plan. And so those items in the early years, 24, 25, 26, should all have that level of detailed support. Those that are out there in 28, 30, well, 28 is probably good. Out there in the 30s, we'll say, you know, when time comes, we'll get to that detail. But I did see the asset-based report on the whole HVAC system or all things HVAC, and you know, it's pretty exhaustive list. So I appreciate that work on that. And with that, I will close.
So our next step is to bring this forward 2 weeks again, now for the approval of the summer 24. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, and now we are going to shift to our policy item. Dr. Johnson. Okay, so this is, I guess this first item is a memorandum of understanding with the Imagine Foundation. We talked about the Imagine Foundation a little bit 2 weeks back when we revised board policy 8. And here to help answer any questions are 2 members of the Imagine Foundation. Lynn Kamenetza, who some of you may have seen before at board meetings, and also Stephen Schuler, a member of the Imagine Foundation, to help with the conversation. So there's really not a whole lot that I need to say by way of introduction with this piece, other than this is the first step towards really formalizing the relationship between the Imagine Foundation and the district. This memorandum of understanding explains the ways in which we will work with them throughout the life of the agreement. So I know you've all had a chance to see it. At this point, we'll open up to see if there are any questions from you all, for me or our guests. Or if there's anything else you two want to say by way of introduction, I'll open it up to you.
Sure. Just a short introduction. First, President Kofke and the rest of the board, we appreciate you having us here tonight to discuss these matters and all the work you're doing regarding facilities. Really appreciate that hard work. Lynn and I are co-founders of the Imagine Foundation. We're pleased to be here working to enter an agreement with the District 200, help Project 2 track and field facilities become a reality. We think they're really important, and we're passionate about that project. We strongly believe that Oak Park River Forest High School is the cornerstone institution for our communities. If we want to continue to have the vibrant, diverse communities we've had throughout the history of Oak Park, and I've been here my whole life. I'm a 3rd generation Oak Parker. Like Pete Ryan said, you know, my parents were here, I'm here, hopefully my kids will be here. We want to continue to have that kind of community, we need to invest in this institution. It's really important. So, but we're also aware of the tax burden on our taxpayers and our communities. And we've created the foundation to use philanthropic dollars to help pay for the much needed facility improvements in this important institution. And our outgoing research confirms our original belief that there are many generous community members, alumni, families of alumni who are willing, able, to contribute philanthropic gifts to this project to improve the facilities. And, you know, I also want to just say that I think, clearly get that all the decisions about what you guys are going to do is the board's decisions. We're just here to try to facilitate getting these facilities improved once you guys have decided on what you're going to do. So again, thank you for having us here, and any questions we can answer, we'd be glad to.
Next time, I'll just have you introduce the items.
Yes. Questions for board members?
I don't really have any questions, but I just do want to thank you for all the work you've done. I know that you and Lynn have put in a tremendous amount of work to make this happen over several years now. Not only the vision, but the way to make it happen. So thank you for all of this. And I look forward to voting for this when it comes up.
Yeah, again, I just like to reiterate what Sarah just said, and thank you. I know the kind of work that both of you put in, and to support the institution, to support the district, the way you are is phenomenal. It's unique, and I can't express enough gratitude. Thank you.
Great question, comments?
Well, I would say thank you also, but they said it already.
Well, we haven't accomplished it yet, so starting to do that. We're doing a lot of work, and hopefully, we really believe we can get there.
So I think that the memorandum we kind of seen, and there were some questions, but I think using best practices and reaching out, this looks well crafted, and I'm ready to see this thing move into the end zone. When we start looking about or am I getting ahead? What's the next item? Yeah, I was getting ahead of myself with the next item, so I gotta stop myself.
Should I move to the next item?
Yeah, go to the next item.
Either of you want to introduce this item?
I don't know.
So, I'll just say this really quickly. There are two components to this next item. It's the recognition opportunity list, as well as the gift naming agreement. And it's important that these are distinct from the memorandum of understanding. Memorandum of understanding explains how we will work and how cash, that these donations will move. This really talks, is something that wouldn't be as necessarily as permanent of documents, either of these two. One is a recognition opportunity list that could absolutely evolve over time from year to year, and also based off of our growing understanding of how the donations come in. I really appreciated quite a bit the collaborations that I've had with you two to help, that you've done really to help, pull this together and help get an idea for how we can move forward there. The gift naming agreement is also one that is, it is designed as a template for these agreements, and depending on the nature of an individual agreement, it could take a slightly different form from one that preceded it or one that might follow it. And so I don't know if there's more specifics you'd like to add to that, but it's those two pieces that will also come to the board in 2 weeks. So go ahead.
I think that the gift agreement, I think we're not asking for approval of. What we're asking approval is assigning the foundation the rights, the language of 880, assigning the foundation the rights to market, et cetera, whatever that language is.
Yeah.
So that will require a vote.
That's right.
The list will require a vote, but the agreement is just a template.
Thank you for that clarification, enabling us to use that agreement as a template.
I'm confused. Forgive me. So the first, I shouldn't call it that, the recognition opportunity list is a document created by the foundation that the foundation has control over in terms of when and how to change the amounts or the items.
No,
like whose approval is that? I guess is what I'm asking.
So the foundation worked with the administration to come up with a list for the year 2023 only. And the board has to approve that. So that when we go out and talk to donors and they say, well, is the board really gonna allow me to name this amount? We can say, well, they have to approve the final agreement, but here's the list that they've already approved. So this is our starting point for our conversation. But then anybody who's going to take advantage of what's on that list of naming opportunities and gift amounts, the eventual agreement for that will be a legal contract that will come back to the board for approval. So you're just saying in advance for us, for our community, for our donors, yes, this is a rough list of about what we do.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful, I just wasn't sure the authority is coming from.
Questions? Looking at this list, with the exception of needing another 0, I believe, for the new classrooms and labs. Unless it's really $100 European, with the comma there as a decimal place. What is that?
Classrooms.
Oh, there's, I see, it's 100 comma 20.
I'm based on the sorting and not just having, okay.
You will approve, if you do, 2 weeks from now, a revised.
Yeah, so I would,
Yes.
but I think this really kind of sheds a light, well, first of the great work that you've done, but also really the scope of what we're doing, of the facilities. I mean, this is, this isn't a pool.
Right.
This is a facilities plan with classrooms and significant infrastructure. So I think this puts it in perspective, just looking at this list. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, well, there we go. You'll see it again in 2 weeks, and thank you all very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And also in policy, we have a number of policies for free. So, I'm gonna just open it up. And I guess I'm gonna just go through them one by one and ask if anyone has any issues or questions with them, and stop me, because I'm gonna go as quickly as we can get through them. 2:100, Board of Member Conflict of Interest. Questions?
I do have a question, and I think it's a question that also Press Plus asked. I mean,
Yeah.
do we want to define whether or not it's a partner, domestic partner, or business partner? Or do we want to leave, do our attorneys have an opinion, do we just leave it vague like that?
That's for the board to discuss. I don't know, we don't,
Okay,
I don't know that we.
I had the same question. I had that circle, so.
I mean, I don't mind it encompassing both, but I think it would be better for us to explicitly state business partner or domestic partner.
So the recommendation, Tara, is to be explicit about both.
Whatever it is, whatever, yeah, whatever the attorneys say to do, I'm fine with, but we should, I think, be more explicit about what that means.
All right, thank you.
Anyone? Okay, I agree with that. All right, anything else on okay, 4165, awareness and prevention of child sexual abuse and grooming behaviors. Any questions on the changes? Hearing none. 5240 suspension. Any questions? None. Very good. 5:250 leaves of absence. And
there is an answer required. Which is, pardon?
Yeah, about the district requiring fully vaccinated employees.
Yes.
We do not.
So we kind of answered that one. Any other questions on this? I had a question on it. And it's a kind of a more I guess it's already I just answered my own question, which the question was how this interrelates with our collective bargaining agreements, but I guess the introductory sentence says, please refer to applicable CBAs, so they override what's in here.
Correct.
Okay, that was the only question I had. Anyone else? Okay. Just making sure I'm on the right policy. Okay. 5:280 duties and qualifications. Did I skip one or?
No,
Okay,
you're right.
Sarah?
No, thanks.
Okay. School accountability, 6:15, any questions? Okay. 6:20 school year calendar and day. Today's calendar day, I guess. Any questions there? What is it?
National Pizza Day.
It is? And
Congratulations.
6:250 community resource persons and volunteers. 6:255 assemblies and ceremonies. Does that include National Pizza Day?
It's not.
Okay. 6:260 complaints about curriculum, instruction materials and programs. I had a question in this one. It is, do we have, there's quite a bit of requirement here. Do we have procedures in place for all of the ways in which these need to be handled?
We do, since Dr. Fearon is in the back, I will just quickly say, she's nodding yes, we do. We have a standard form that we developed several years back, and we implement it anytime it comes.
Correct. 6:50 school wellness. 665 student social and emotional development. Oh, these are just, okay, and 100 health, eye and dental examination, immunization and exclusion of students. Okay, and lastly, 750 school admission and student transfers to and from non-district schools. I guess my note says, how is it done? So again, do we have
Sorry, I anticipated, I shut it off. Let me go back and look at it again. The school. The exact mechanism for how that transfer.
We have a process. We have a process that every student that applies that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody in the room right now can give you the details of exactly how that goes out.
If we could just, again, I just want to make sure that we have the mechanism. Okay.
Got it.
We have ticked through all of the policies up for
first read. So that completes our policy section and moves us to future agenda items.
Just and reiterate the request to have an updated student accessibility modifications
Yep.
that have been made or improvements that have been made. And if that happens after I'm off the board, that is okay. I don't want to rush the administration. If you need the time, don't look at the schedule. It'll be helpful.
Any others? Okay. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
All right.
Very clear. I said it's.
We still have a special.
We have a special.
I know.
Yeah. I thought 10:30 was.
We're still live.
Hey, Thomas,
Yes.
we're still live, so just.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go right into the special, so I'm pulling it up.
We have security. No.
We just need to approve a couple quick.
Just talks about it.
Quick things.
Yeah.
Wrong meeting.
Pardon?
My fault. Probably not gonna write about this.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, we're.
I have a-
Great progress. We're talking to lots of people, lots of. It's on the third page. We have indications for good, people who are willing to.
Okay. We can start.
Yeah.
No. I'm closing one instead of opening the other. I call to order the special board meeting at 9:16 PM on Thursday, the 9th of February in the year 2023. At the Oak Park and River Forest High School boardroom, and ask for roll call.
Mr. Arkin,
Present.
Mr. Henry.
Here.
Fells. Here. Ms. Spivey.
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj.
Here.
Mr. Martyri. Mr. Husky.
Here. Our first order of business is public comments. Do we have any new public comments?
None.
Okay. We have two action items for this evening. First, I move to approve the personnel recommendations, including new hires and transfers.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Harris. Yes. Ms. Spivey.
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj.
Yes.
Mr. Arkin.
Yes.
Mr. Husky.
Yes. Our second item is I move to approve the additional members for the Community Finance Committee.
Second.
I just want to make a quick comment, which is, it is just wonderful that we have community members who continue to volunteer to participate in these kind of activities, and there were a number who did submit to be in, but we now have, we can fill up the committee with the vacancies and move on, so it's much appreciated. So may I ask for a roll call, please?
Ms. Harris. Yes. Ms. Spivey.
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj.
Yes.
Mr. Arkin.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Husky.
Yes. And any future agenda items here? Okay, so I, Tom Kofsky, do formally move to say to adjourn the special meeting of
the mystery of Symphony Walk. We're second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are